Want to hit your revenue goals quicker, faster, better than ever before? Well, this is what you need to do. You need to understand your buyer's journey. Understand what they're going through. And today we're going to tell you how you can do that easily. Hey everyone, welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today, and I'm excited for my guest, Christina Motz. Christina is actually the CMO at Moz, and they're an amazing SEO company. They have some great insights, a powerful tool. And over the years, they've been able to work and understand how a client eventually comes from a prospect to a raving fan. And today she's going to share with us how we can be more effective, how we can hit more of our revenue targets by simply understanding the buyer's journey. Amazing stuff. Let's go ahead and dive into the episode. Welcome to the show, Christina.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. I'm excited to have you. I mean, anytime I can hear about how I can improve my sales skills, I'm all in the game for that. And especially when it comes towards a buyer's journey, because I feel even more so the buyer's journey is just evolved tremendously, especially as we've gone through the past 8 months of COVID. And I want to hear from your insights, some of the things that we can best do to improve our revenue and to meet our revenue goals when it comes to the buyer's journey. But before we dive into that stuff and go into the nitty gritty there, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and what you do right now?
Great. Thank you. Yes. So Christina Motz, I am the Chief Marketing Officer and Head of Sales at Moz. Some of you might know us. Moz is an SEO platform, search engine optimization. We've been around a very long time. We were the first in the space, known a lot for an incredible amount of free content. So if you're scratching your head right now and thinking, what? I think I've heard of that. Not sure. You can head over to moz.com and we have a ton of content, including a beginner's guide to help you understand why, especially when you're looking at things like a buyer's journey and trying to deeply understand your customers, how SEO can help you there.
Moz, you guys are like the king of, and the queen of the industry. And it's definitely a powerful software and I highly recommend it. Some of my friends who are deep in the marketing world, I always, whenever it comes up, you guys are one of the tools that stand up there. So, and this is why I felt it would be great to have you, because you bring so much knowledge to the table of in-depth understanding. And I think this will make a fun discussion dialogue. So anywho, yeah. Guys, if you haven't done so already, go check them out. We'll link back to the beginner's guide for you.
Sure, thanks.
But let's dive into it. Let's talk about it. We want to meet our revenue goals. What are some of the biggest problems you're seeing right now when it comes towards folks meeting their revenue target?
So despite I think the biggest problem right now, like if we're talking in this moment, is that everything's changed, right? So we had our ways of working and things were going along pretty well. And then suddenly we all are in a place where we have to think of things differently. Even if you traditionally already were very digital in your approach to reaching out to customers, you're on the phone or you're on email, what's happened now is that everybody's doing that. Yeah. And so there's even more noise and even more clutter, and therefore even more need to understand your customers. Like a revenue goal is ultimately met by connecting with the right customers who really need you and can really benefit from what you're offering. But if you don't even know who they are or where they're at in that journey, you might be missing incredible opportunity at every stage in the buyer's journey. So I think, the number one thing that folks can do right now, if they have that heavy revenue goal and they're not sure how to reach it, is to slow down for a moment. Our tendency is to speed up. Okay, I got to do more, faster of the same things. And the reality is that in this environment, it makes sense to slow down, take a step back and say, wait, do I really know who my ideal customer is? And you don't have to do that alone, right? Even if you're an independent entrepreneur doing all your own selling, you can reach out to peer groups to help understand. If you're a head of sales or a salesperson, reach out to your peers on the sales team. go across that bridge that sometimes feels so lonely and reach out to the marketing team if there is one at your business.
What?
Because I'm really fortunate because they both report to me. So I was going to say we're all sitting together, but not quite these days. But I think it's really all about making sure you know who your customer really is.
Yeah, and I think that's a critical side when it comes to, especially understanding where they're going to go in their journey. Because I would imagine that the buyers, like you said, the buyer's journey is evolved. But if I don't understand who I'm going for in the first place, then I don't necessarily understand where they even started with their approach. I mean, from your experience right now, are people starting off their buyer's journey the same exact way that they typically have done pre-COVID, or what are some of the research you all have seen?
So I haven't seen any really great studies on it yet. Like people are starting to ask those questions and starting to surveying folks. But what I'm seeing anecdotally and from our own experience in the data, we're fortunate because at Miles we have a ton of data. And so business data, not privacy, not personal. But we're able to, understand very well how folks are interacting with our content. And I think that there are more people seeking more answers themselves right now. So the buyer's journey, we had this myth that's really been demystified for decades, but we had this myth that it was this linear journey, right? We even create this nice, clean funnel, and we talk about the different stages in the funnel, and they get through the marketing funnel, and then they enter the sales stages. And then we have these nice, clean sales stages, and you all know what they are, right? In the marketing side, we build awareness, we drive consideration, interest and consideration, get them down to the point where we're ready to purchase. Oh, and then it's the salesperson's job. And then they have those stages of qualifying and negotiating and so forth, whatever you've defined it. The reality is it is not a linear process, and it has not been a linear process probably since the first computer was created and people started talking to each other online. There is so much information available now that we are finding folks from the users all the way to the decision makers to the executives who might own budget or even are just owning strategy. They're online trying to solve their own problems, and they will do a million different Google searches. And you need to understand what they're asking at what point in their journey from even figuring out they have a problem. Because remember, some of us are selling products that are competing with the status quo.
Yeah.
And status quo could be a pad of paper and a pen or an Excel spreadsheet, right? And so we need to understand where they're at from the moment they understand they have a problem to start. They will first do research to help them to find that problem. Wait, something's not working here. Or, gosh, this is so hard. There must be an easier way. And they start going online and searching. And then they get a little bit of information and they search more. And they get a little bit and they search more. And they may be talking to friends in between this and their peer groups, their bosses, other people in the industry. So it's really become word of mouth, but times 1,000. Because they have so much information available to them. And what I find often happens both on the marketing side and the sales side is, first of all, they think of it as two separate sides.
Yeah.
And it's not. We are all one team. We have to work so closely together now in such an integrated way. And people will tend to still think, well, the person was over here gathering information and then they clicked on this pricing page, so they must be ready to buy. It's like, no, they might have just been clicking around the way some of us do on a website, right? Those signals are not necessarily as clear because people will go through their journey and they'll be wind around and they'll go down the funnel and back up the funnel. And so we need to really start understanding our customers as if we were them, and then have empathy for that pain that they're going through and the problem they're trying to solve. Because if we do that, then we will start reaching out to them and talking to them like a friend we are trying to help. Like, think about, like, if you had a friend came to you with a problem, like, hey, I need to, whatever, solve this issue I've got. That's
paint my house.
Like, there you go, paint my house, right? You wouldn't in that moment say, you need to buy this kind of paint. This is how much you need to buy. And here's the colors.
Yeah.
You'd be like, really? God, you got to paint your own house? Wow, that is painful. Are you going to try to do it yourself? Are you going to hire somebody? Like, you start going through these questions.
Yeah.
Right? To better understand their problem. And so we have to remember that we need to do that, and it changes. If your friend has already decided to hire somebody, they're further down in their journey. But do you at that moment try to sell them on something? Like you have to really know that while you don't want to miss an opportunity to sell, it's really all about building the relationship by just being a helpful friend each stage.
So early in the process, if I'm a sales rep, and let's just go back to that idea early in the process, I know my buyers, there's no one linear path per se. They're all over the place. They're trying to solve a problem. Ultimately, my friends in marketing and myself need to come with that understanding. When I come to the table with that, and I mean, if I understand that idea, it's going to better help me understand that individuals' journeys may be different, but by having a dialogue, then I can know how to help them, guide them down that path. Am I off on that?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And the thing is that I know there's some people thinking out there like, what? Like one-on-one? I'm supposed to talk to every person? No. Like I'm using these words, have a dialogue, ask questions, but you can do that in an automated way. You can also do it by just paying attention. So one of the reasons that search is so powerful right now, I mean, obviously lots of people are searching, but the other thing is it gives you insight into directly what your customers are trying to figure out. So you need to hone in and understand what keywords they're putting in that search box, how they're asking those questions. And then as you learn that, you can create content. So think if they're starting out with, when should I paint my house? Is this really a time when I have to paint my house? You might develop a short little blog post or a helpful checklist that says, the 10 signs that it's time to paint your house. The paint is peeling, blah, 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 right? Whatever those items are. And then later down each stage, as you understand their questions that they have at each stage, just developing that piece of content. Now, maybe that's a marketing person working with you, but even if you're out there on your own and you're selling and you don't have somebody to develop that content for you, if you really know what you're selling, you believe in it, and you understand how to answer someone's questions who's still figuring out that journey. And so you can create an email that reaches out. If you already know who you're talking to, you can do a LinkedIn post to reach out to many. There are so many avenues open to us now to share the answers that our customers are looking for at each stage in the journey. The trick is knowing what it is that they need. And so I also recommend actually mapping the journey, whether you're in marketing or in sales. Because even if you're in sales and you have a marketing team, and you're like, well, they give me qualified leads. Fantastic. So they have completed the marketing side of the journey, and now they're in the sales journey. But that customer's still on a journey.
Yeah.
They haven't purchased yet. So there are still steps, and it's not necessarily just your stages that you have in your CRM. So if you map it, and if you can really have empathy, so this is where it comes back to taking that moment, taking a deep breath in a quiet space, and putting yourself in that place of the customer. It's so hard. We have a tendency to say, I have this gadget, and this gadget, widget, whatever, solves a problem. And we think of it from our point of view. And you have to push all that knowledge out of your head and instead sit with the pain that your customer has, and then start mapping it. Do yourself a little paper journey. It starts out that simple, and ask yourself, what would I ask at each of these steps? And what would I need to be convinced? At this step, I need that checklist. At this next step, it might be a case study. If you don't have a case study, I bet you have a happy customer who has a testimonial, who's written a review for you, something that you can have that you can put out there. But here's where it gets tricky. Unless you're already talking one-to-one with customers, like through email or on the phone, you need them to find that content when they need it. And that's where search engine optimization comes in, SEO. A lot of people think SEO is about stuffing a bunch of keywords on your website. I stuff them up there, and then somebody searches and they'll find my website. That's pretty old school and Google's algorithm is way, way more advanced now. And so instead, you just have to pull that aside and just really think about the customer journey, develop content for each stages, even if it's a simple little thing. It doesn't have to be a huge, 50-page ebook or white paper. And then make sure that you are headlining that content with the words your customer would use when your customer is searching. Like, that's where SEO comes in, is that, if you cut down a tree in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, does the tree fall or whatever that thing is? I think the tree falls, you didn't cut it down, whatever that saying is. If you create this dynamite piece of content that your customer will, if they read this, they'll be so relieved. Oh, now I understand that next step in my journey. If they can't find it, they never see it, you might as well have not created it.
Yeah.
And so that's where SEO comes in. You can also buy ads. You can buy Google search ads to, and buy them specifically to drive people to that piece of content. The tricky part, and a little secret that nobody ever talks a lot about, is if you look at that search engine results page, those ads that are on the top, they get about 3% of traffic on a good day. So, and then you have a big chunk of traffic, 20-30% that never click on anything. The rest of that traffic, so 50-60% of traffic, is all on those other links. Those other links come from organic search. You don't pay for that, right? That's SEO.
And you want to know something, because I understand a little bit about it, enough to cause damage, not enough to cause anything major. I personally don't click on the links because I don't want to waste people's ad dollars. In my mind, I say, okay, I'm going to look in the search, unless I'm specifically looking for a company, and I'm lazy, I might just do that. But at that point, or not necessarily a company, but like a product. Let's say even if I'm painting my house, let's use that example, and I'm trying to find painters, I probably wouldn't click on the ad. I would click on, maybe if the ad was, 5 things you need to know about painting your house, or 10 things, something like that, top 10 painters or whatever companies, then I'll probably look at that. And even top 10 seems so high, I'll probably look for 5. Like, I want somebody to do the work for me. and then I will then look at those 5 and then do my analysis, probably spend like a day or whatnot. And then I will start making the phone calls or outreach after that. So, here myself, I realize the ads, I rarely click on them. And I think that's probably one of the things we're seeing, because I think people expect that the ad you're being sold to, as opposed to the organic stuff. It's organic. This is straight up real. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the behavior that you just described is very common. And yet some businesses have a tendency to think, I don't have to do SEO because I'm covered. I bought that ad.
Yeah.
But people will look, and there's also a credibility factor. What we're finding is that if you're running ads and then they don't also see you in the organic search results, you lose credibility because they do think I'm being sold to.
Yeah.
And ads are effective, don't get me wrong, but they are way more effective when you're combining them with really good SEO. The other thing you mentioned, I'm going to see the top 10 painters in my area. So that's called the local pack. That's local SEO. And that's another thing that businesses really need to pay attention to, especially right now during times of COVID. So if you are a business with a local, like a physical location, even if that location is closed right now, you need to get that message out to customers. And you do that through local SEO. And the products right now, the local SEO products responded really fast to COVID and the market needs for flexibility. So most of the products, including those at Moz, will allow you now to change your hours on the fly, make updates to say, hey, we're closed, but we're doing curbside pickup, whatever you need to do to put that message out there. Because customers, they want to be loyal. People are trying to help these local businesses. But if they don't know that you're open or partially open or whatnot, or if they think you're open and they go all the way out to you and then you're not open, it just doesn't leave a good brand impression.
I may or may not have had experience like that during this time period.
Yeah, I think we all have, right? And your heart first goes out to that local business like, oh no, they're closed. And then you're like, why didn't they tell me that? Why does their listing still say they're open?
Yeah, it's critical. I mean, it's just communicating, and it goes back to the simple idea you're saying, just communicate with the buyer. And I know sometimes it's easier said than done, but I think if you, what happens, and I think the point that I've gone back to from the very beginning, what you said was just slow down. And I think for me as a sales rep, let's start talking about what I think. But for me as a sales rep, me selling in the sales evangelist organization, I know that I still want to hit my revenue targets and my revenue goals. And I do think sometimes that I need to push on the gas when I don't, come into the middle of the month and we don't see the numbers where we need to be. It's like, well, push on the gas as opposed to slow down, who we need to target, what's the message we need to say to them right now, and then listen to what they're saying. And then it goes back to the platinum rule, which I always share, is that golden rule, you treat others the way that you would like to be treated. A platinum rule, you treat others the way they would like to be treated. And the only way you can figure that out is by listening.
That is gold, or I guess that's platinum.
That's platinum.
That is, it's so true and it's so needed. I think that sales right now is harder than ever. Like, I am so proud of my sales team. They are doing really well during this time. We had some bumps, like everybody had some bumps. March, painful, right? April, still a little weak. Did much better in May and doing well now. But the sales team, what I loved about what they did is, and they came to me, like our sales director came to me and said, I think at this time we need to pause and just reach out and make sure that our customers are okay and make sure that our prospects don't need something else for us. And so what we did both as a business and the sales team is we met as a group and we said, what are all of the educational assets we have that we can just give away? Even some that we used to do for that we charge for. And we made a ton of stuff free, but we also made it more visible. And we started reaching out even to those folks in the pipeline, not with a sales pitch or anything, but just saying, hey, you're in this industry. We know you're probably hurting. Here's a guide to help you. Here's something that you might try for free that you could do on your own, because we just thought we really needed to do that. And it has turned out to be one of the best sales strategies we could have employed, even though we did it with heart, with empathy, and didn't think of it as a sales strategy. We thought of it as helping the community. It turned out that our customers remember that. And then when things got a little bit more stable for them, they came back to us. So it's that last reminder to know where your customers are at and what their pain is in that moment. And during March and April, their pain was being scared, having uncertainty. Everybody froze budgets because nobody was sure what was going to happen. So you just need to understand.
I couldn't agree with you more there. I mean that, and I love that idea, because if I was a buyer in your funnel at that point, or in your pipeline, and somebody reached out to me and did that, it would show me that, yes, that I'm here, and that I'm not going anywhere right now. You don't necessarily have to come and jump on a gas and say, buy, we have you should buy now. You're being empathetic, but it also tells me too, is that you have confidence in your ability, because you're going to give me something that's going to help me right now. And I think we both all know at that point that eventually a purchase may or may not take place. So I know you have a tool that I would like to use, and I'm already in the pipeline for it. You're not even mentioning that. It's in my mind natively. I'm going to think, okay, well, great. I know we were talking to Ryan about, the software. I can't do it right now, but he sent this to me without any strings attached. I like that guy. Let's see what happens in the next 2 months, and let's call, reconnect with them and see how we can help. So
even if you're in a business, you are selling to a person.
Yes.
And you might be selling to 10 people. There might be a huge buyer's committee depending on what you're selling, but it's people selling to people. And really, when you think about it, it's just people helping people, because we know our products will help them grow their business, live better lives, whatever it is, whatever we're representing is going to help them. And if you take that approach, you are standing in their shoes. You understand them better.
Oh, love it. Any other ideas that you might have, Christina, that can help us as we get ready to wrap up here, to help us to make sure we understand the buyer's journey in order to meet those revenue numbers? Any other thoughts?
I would say just be a buyer. Like take a day and say, I'm a buyer. Go online. What would you look for? What shows up when you do searches? That's also a good way to see what your competitors are doing and what is surfacing for them. Go on LinkedIn and see like, who would I reach out to if I was, a buyer and I had this question. By playing that game of the buyer, not only do you get in their head, you start seeing what is available to them. So you see where the gaps are, or gosh, I did this search. I'm sure my buyer would have this problem and nothing is coming up that's useful. It might be a bunch of clickbait crap, right? But nothing is good. And so now you're like, wow, I could create something that is going to help them in that moment. It gives you that insight. It also gives you insight into what your competitors are offering. If they have like a really good guide, you're like, okay, what can I do to make sure that I can let them use that guide? Customers can use that guide to educate themselves. And yet I'm going to create something maybe further down the funnel that says, okay, now that you've educated yourself, you're ready to compare. You're ready to say which product is truly going to meet my needs. So there's insight you get from playing the role of the customer.
Love it. All right. Well, Christina, there's so much here. I mean, we're doing one of our team training, our annual meeting at the end of this month. So I am going to take this activity as one of those activities and use it in there. So I just wrote it down specifically for that. So, but I love it. I appreciate this. If there's one major insight from everything we talk about, one major takeaway, somebody's listening and they heard all this great stuff, but there's one thing they need to walk away with. What's that one major piece of advice?
Do not assume that you know what's best for your customer until you truly have empathy and feel like you are the customer.
Love it. Love that. We're going to make that as a click to tweet or something.
Cool.
Christina, if folks want to get in touch with you and the team over at Moz, how do they go about doing that? What's your best recommendation?
Super easy. Moz.com. Just moz.com. There are plenty of ways to interact with us there. And it's also a good way to play around. If you go to the resources section, tons of free content there. So if you're looking to just learn a little bit more, we have a lot of case studies. So you could also understand how other companies have benefited with these types of strategies.
Love it. Well, Christina, thank you so much for taking the time to come on our show today. We appreciate you, and we'll make sure to link back to Moz so they can get some of those free tools. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Anytime. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Christina, and I hope that you go and connect with her, learn about some of the cool things that Moz has to offer and how it can help you and your team improve your game. The buyer's journey is no joke, and even more so now today than ever, we need to understand how those individuals who we're trying to court are making their decisions, and especially how the game has twisted just a little bit with this whole pandemic thing. Listen to her points again, see how you can take it and apply it to your sales efforts and how you can meet your revenue targets quicker. As always, I want you to succeed. Speaking about succeed, I want you guys to check out my friends over at Pipedrive. Pipedrive wants you to succeed as well, and they're giving you an opportunity to do so by taking advantage of their 14-day trial. Wait, what was that? No, it's a 30-day trial. Pipedrive is giving you now a 30-day trial of their system, and in addition to that, you'll get 25% off the first 3 months. Just simply use Pipedrive TSE at checkout. It's an amazing promo code, right? Pipedrive TSE. Now, if you think that's amazing, I want you to check out my friends over at Wingman. Wingman. We all need that Wingman, right? And Wingman is a powerful software as well. This is able to help you as your team are working remotely, or they're by themselves and they need a little bit of help. Imagine if you could just give them that guidance. That's what Wingman will do. And Wingman has a Black Friday deal right now, which is like no other Black Friday deal in the entire world. They're giving you 50% off the first 6 months of Wingman. 50% off. Use promo code TSE at checkout. Again, try wingman.com and get 50% off the first 6 months. Use promo code TSE. As always, I want you to succeed. I want you to find more of those ideal customers. I want you to know what to say when you reach out to them. I want you to be able to close more deals. But naturally, every single day, I want you to go out and do big things. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you enjoyed the content, I ask you to go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up in the bottom right-hand corner. Also, to make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. This way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest sales strategies, latest tools, and things that are going to help you to not only find more prospects, but to close more deals. Thanks so much.